Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you all are. I'm Wynette Tasker. I am the Housing and Homeless Services Technical Assistance Provider at Redwind Consulting. Welcome to our webinar, which is more like a meeting today. But before we begin, for those of you who don't know a whole lot about Redwind, I'll kind of give an overview. We provide tribal technical assistance, which can mean a lot of things. And it sounds like we provide tech support, but we really don't. That's not what technical assistance means. We work through OVW, and we have a couple of different projects. So we have the Housing and Homeless Services, we have Children and Youth, we have Elder Abuse, we have tribal campuses, we have urban natives, at least right now.
Yeah,
so
it would
it's
be my
always changed.
number, yes.
Let me see if I can mute who is ever on the phone. I don't know if I have the
Okay, and what did you say about February?
So in February, I had an issue where Arvest was deducting two.
Okay, I think that worked. So yeah, you can unmute yourself or mute yourself because this is a meeting. But also be aware that when you're on the phone, we can hear you. So Redwind does things like conferences, we do webinars, we can do policy reviews. When we're able to travel, like pre and post COVID, we do site visits where we can do things like trainings. We can help you do work sessions to plan out things like curriculums, activities, protocols, etc. If you are interested in more information about what tribal technical assistance means or any of our projects, I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. So again, this is a meeting, not a webinar, so you can unmute yourself. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see all the way in the left-hand corner at the bottom, your microphone button. And so you can mute and unmute yourself there if you would like to ask questions, if you want to share, any of that kind of thing. If you want to share your video, you can do that on the next button over. And then kind of in the middle of the screen, there should be the chat, where if you don't want to talk and you feel more comfortable chatting, you can do that. You can ask questions there too. Yeah, or show us any beadwork you're working on. You know, what kind of handwork are you working on? What kind of crafty things are you doing right now? Feel free to share. I am super honored to be able to have Tor Parker on today to present with us and share with us and facilitate this webinar / meeting. I met Tor around 2016 at a children and youth event because I was the children and youth program coordinator. And at the time, someone at this conference was making less than optimistic remarks about, children and youth and how our younger generations are growing up now. And Tor stood up and talked beautifully and eloquently and passionately about her pride in her sons and their traditional ways and their traditional knowledge. And I was blown away. And I was like, wow, I want to be around her. And so somehow, I don't know, the universe, I feel very, very honored and very fortunate that our paths crossed. Because I've learned so much from her and I'm thrilled that she's here. So Tor is Makah Indian from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. She is a survivor of sexual assault and domestic violence. Professionally, she's worked in the field of domestic violence, sexual assault, homelessness, and homelessness prevention since 2009, which includes emergency shelter management, transitional housing management, and now supportive housing. I am going to put her full bio in the chat because I cannot do it justice. It's beautiful. It's unlike any other bio I've ever seen, and it's just like her. But then I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Tor. And if you want to elaborate on your bio, you can do that too. But go ahead, Tor.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. So first of all, I don't remember what I said about my boys, but they all carry themselves well. They're all respectful of their elders. They love my grandchildren. Family is always first. It doesn't mean they're without flaw. We've had struggles. But I think the important thing, and this is what I really want to stress today, I really think that I cannot begin this until we address Kamloops up in British Columbia. They uncovered 215 bodies of children from boarding school. And it was hard for me, and you'll see it in my bio, my grandmother, my grandfather are survivors of boarding school. The evils that were done to these children are so horrific. And they say when you uncover these bodies, these Indian people, these children, there's an unrest. These spirits are moving and they're active. And we have to be very careful with ourselves right now. We have to bring ourselves back to a way of prayer and pray for these souls until they're at rest again. The trauma it's going to cause their families again and again and again and again is immeasurable. I always think I have a grip around it. They say, like, get over it, boarding school, those days are done. They're not. I'm a product of boarding school. You were looking at what boarding school has done to us. It's impacted my life. I can't stress enough the need to pray for these people in Kamloops, for all these children's souls that are out there moving right now. Their spirits are active. Take care of yourselves. Protect yourselves in whatever way you do as Indian people. We all have our own practices. Mine's here. There are other things that go along with it, but know that this is what we do and this is what our work is about. How are we going to address what's happening right now within our communities, with our people? This is it. This is one of those times where my direct supervisor, Rosetta, would be saying, how are we going to address this? How are we going to help these people? Everybody in boarding school that experienced boarding school, whose parents, grandparents experienced it, are going to be dealing with, or the feelings that come with what just was discovered. So really be careful with each other, do self-care, and then find out, like, how can I help my community with this? How can we have an open discussion? How can we help people continue healing? Because everybody has trauma, and domestic violence, sexual assault, they're all results of something. And this, for Indian people, this is it for us. This is, why we have jobs. This is what our work is about. How are we going to heal? Our intergenerational trauma is primarily from boarding school. It's from having our lands ravaged, having our women and children raped and murdered. And this is another piece of that. So that's what our jobs are about. Not boarding school is done and over, but how do we help people in this moment now? And the first step is take care of yourself, fix yourself proper so that you can help other people, because this isn't over by far. So with that, my heart just, and all my prayers are going out that way. It's been real heavy for us, as a family. We're very close to Canada, so we have relatives up there. So with that, that is kind of one of the teachings, but I'll try to get on track. And really, I have a lot of introductory about Skokomish. So the Skokomish Domestic Violence Program addresses domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, stalking, within the Skokomish community. We're dedicated to the promotion of social, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being of the present and future generations. All the services are confidential. They're available to women, children, men, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, health status, socioeconomic background, sexual orientation, or gender identity. So at-risk clients in immediate danger get priority for services. Clients with children receive priority for shelter. We don't have shelter, but for unmet client needs, we can hotel until we can make arrangements for shelter in either other tribes or in a non-Indian shelter 10 minutes from Skokomish. So our funding comes from the Office on Violence Against Women, the Family Violence Grant, and that's run through SPEPA or the South Puget Intertribal Planning Agency, and the Department of Justice. So for direct client services, we're offering client-centered. Everything is 100% client-driven. So individual advocacy, intervention, stabilization, assisting survivors in identifying needs and barriers and in developing action plans. We partner with survivors to design personalized safety plans. So again, everything is the client's choice. And it's different, you know, I get in shelter, there are rules that come along with it, participation or whatever. We provide other non-financial resources and non-financial activities that are open to everybody within the community, but our clients are the ones that get offered first. So especially if we're doing something that is registration because of a class limit, the clients get offered that first. So DV victims, we recognize victims can include anyone regardless of socioeconomic background, education level, race, age, sexual orientation, religion, or gender. The challenges that we've had in Skokomish are isolation, and this is common for a lot of Indians because we've been giving the worst lands in the worst locations because nobody else wanted them. So we're usually geographically isolated, but culturally, seriously, we have a lot of racism going on around Skokomish right now. A lot of it is attached to the fisheries. The rights that the Indians have as opposed to the non-Indians. A lot of the victims don't want to leave the reservation. We have limited resources if they do choose to stay on the reservation. Housing is already pretty scarce, and typically, as is common, the housing is usually in the perpetrator's name or their abuser's name. So it takes away a lot of their choices if they choose to stay in Skokomish. So tribal county response is tricky, it's frustrating, it's confusing. We have to call 911, it goes out to county forwards it to Skokomish, and then Skokomish responds. But then if it turns out to be a felony, then they call county back and county comes out again. So it's confusing for people and they just give up and they just want to call the tribal police directly and they get upset that they can't. It's still a learning for them. And then the other challenge is, you know, having people become dependent on emergency programs that are offered rather than using it as a gateway to a better existence. But the benefits of providing on the reservation are that we have such an opportunity to educate these people step by step, where they're more accessible, more one-on-one. And when I worked for county, we had to serve an average of 6 to 7 people a day, compared to Skokomish, where I can spend all day with one person and we're good. So it takes as much time as it takes, and that's always okay. There are more resources and more programs offered in the tribe that can help people get on their feet again. So it's finding that balance of let's make sure they're not becoming dependent on this, but using it as kind of a little bounce off to the next part. And they have a lot of community support. There's always a lot of community that they have around them and available to them. So this is the part that I'm going to talk about today, which is our outreach, education, and our prevention. So we do a lot of awareness days, Purple Thursday, Wear Red Day, Orange for Love Day. We do teen dating violence in February. We do the whole month of outreach. We do Go Teal Day, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. In April and October, we're really ramping those things up. We have a really great trainer that we use, Blaze Training, and they're law enforcement. And so they come out and they do a lot of self-defense classes, anti-bullying for the teens before they start their summer youth employment every year. And they also do law enforcement training on DVSA response. They're amazing. We use Indigi Dreams. They've trained us every year pretty much since I've been with Skokomish. And Northwest Justice Project is our pro bono attorneys that we refer to because we don't pay for attorneys. And they've come and done trainings for us on all their services that they offer and who has what rights in what situations. And we've had one gal specifically that has been advocating for one client for 6 years now. So they're amazing. They never quit. Providence St. Peter's has done trainings for us, and that's the picture you see on the left where they did the impact of childhood trauma on the brain. And we've even had Rudy Paris from The Voice season 3 who came and talked about his childhood trauma and his domestic violence abuse. He was abused by his wife, and he talked about that and performed for us. So it was pretty cool. And then Women in Spirit Coalition, who is the our Native American outreach agency, and they offer trainings. But everything that we offer, all of these, and all of you can do this too, every one of these was free to the community, and the majority of them actually get training hours. So our non-financial services are twice monthly healing circle. It includes a meal, childcare, and a craft. And so we've done things like gathering cedar bark, moccasin making, basket weaving, beading, medicine making, canning fish, jam making, digital storytelling workshops. We go to the youth council monthly, and we do healthy relationship, not lessons, I wouldn't say, but every month we have a topic. We took our digital storytelling workshop. We did a workshop with elders. We got 6 stories out of that. And for 6 months, we took a different elder to youth council so they got to share their story and started that mixing between youth and elders. And we had one who was so cool. He goes, so any of you, you can follow me. He's so with it. He's he's in his 60s. You can follow me on Facebook. You can text me at this number and I will talk to you. And some of them did. He got new followers on Facebook after going to youth council. So we're finding a way to bring all these groups together. So we go to the non-Indian agency support group each month and we teach there. And in having that partnership with them, they're always going, yeah, we have a bed. It's they're making sure that they're helping us as much as we're helping them. We go to the health fairs, Christmas parties, National Night Out, the Back to School Bash, arts and crafts bazaars. My supervisor actually hosted an arts and crafts bazaar in spring right before Mother's Day, and we're able to put a table up there and do the awareness for the missing and murdered Indigenous people. We also have a Council of Elders task force. They meet monthly and they have input on our awareness events. So this is another opportunity, and that's that generation that we're talking about when we say they need healing too. So if they're presented as volunteers, we educate them. We're telling them about historical trauma. We're telling them this is what we want to teach on. What do you think? They're absorbing that and they're learning about it. And we had one that was on the task force long enough that she started sharing her story where she was a victim of incest. And she's been able to get that one-on-one with help healing. And she also teaches. So she's become the teacher as well as a member of our task force. They're always volunteering at our events. They're always showing up. Like there's the one there is Rose, and she's always helping decorate. She sets up for these are our raffle prizes for anybody who goes to our event. But this is another opportunity to train that population and help them with their healing as well. So anybody, like I said before, you don't have to be a client. You don't have to be in a violent situation. You don't have to know anybody in a violent situation. And we open it up to anybody in the community over the age of 18, except for pop-up crafts. And I'll get to that in a bit. So what makes us unique, and this was a big lesson from my supervisor. If you think about it, when that you have that question from your OVW grant report, what does this funding allow you to do that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise without our funding? It's basically saying, why does our money matter? And I took that question to my boss. I'm like, excuse my language, everybody, but I was like, this is pissing me off. I'm tired of answering this question. And she says, well, why are we different? Why? And I just was blocked. And she says, what makes us different than the non-Indian agency in town? And I said, well, we get to answer or respond culturally. And she said, exactly, go right about that. Set me off. And so once you get that idea in your head, you kind of start rolling with it. We get to apply who we are as Indian people. And that's the thing that was really taken away from us. That's what boarding school did. Let's kill this Indian, and save the human. And learning that it's okay to use our practices in our way in helping people find them back to themselves, or maybe find themselves for the first time. So like the beauty in that is like, it's only as creative as you can get. The wording is where it comes in. We'll get to that. So where we're located is kind of significant. I think that's why, if you look at my bio, the way I introduce myself is always by my family. It's always by my history, what my family has been through and what brings us to this day. And the same goes for Skokomish. So Skokomish is actually Big River people. And if you look at this map, you're going to see, you see that huge body of water running through there. And you see that aerial view of just how small this village is, but we have all those trees and we have all the water there. There are about 796 enrolled members. There's about 5,000 acres here. So the battle here comes with the seasons. There are a lot of oyster picking is how they're surviving pretty much right now. The fisheries have not been well. These are people that are dependent upon these things for their income. So, it's another question. What happens? What happens when the logging goes away? First, it was the logging industry that left. What happens when fishing doesn't go well? How are these families going to survive? What's it going to cause in their home? You're really aware of the temperature of the community. And so that plays a role in it. And this is just cool. So this brings us to, if you focus more on the building at Family Services, this is my boss's baby. And you'll never get her to take credit for anything. But we have in Skokomish, coming out of the same building, a traditional plants garden, which they call the healing garden. And we also have a community garden. And these things were started by somebody else, but then it just sat kind of dormant for all these years. And my boss, when she became supervisor of all of Family Services, she picked this up. These all play into each other, and you'll understand why in a bit. But her drive is 100% I want my community to be as great as it can be. She sees potential in everything and everybody. This garden crew is made up by, first and foremost, the voc rehab clients that have temporary disability, and then also the general assistance clients. So all these people are out, and the shot on the left and even the one in the middle, she even has a bee, like bee colonies. We keep going. And so this garden on the left, everybody in the community has access to it. It is 100% accessible. It has a path that's even wheelchair accessible. People can go through there and pick their own medicines. Our garlic, when we cook, came out of the garden, and that's what we're feeding the people when we do our activities. She has, and that's another one of her voc rehab, another one of the clients who came on the garden crew. And we have, even if you look there, you'll see we even have sage out in the garden, and she'll pick it and hang it, and the whole building just feels like completely blessed. But so we have the garden coming out of there. And so the first thing with our outreach, education, prevention, if you don't know what to do, start with something like this. Because this is exactly what I did. This is how it evolves. Like, we invited people to a make one, take one. There's very little skill involved or knowledge. When I first came to Skokomish, we were cleaning out cupboards and cabinets and found glitter, colored chicken feathers, and plastic pony beads. And I took them to my boss. I'm like, I don't even know what this is about. Like, what was this girl doing? She's like, I have no idea. And so we donated a lot of that still to like the Head Start program. And then as we're building this and coming to how to, because in the beginning there was like zero activity happening. There was a once a month women's circle is what it was called. And we had to pull away from that. If we're going to say, hey, we serve everybody, regardless of gender, race, sex, whatever. The minute you put a women's circle tag on it, it says, oh, so that's for all the women who are getting beat in the village. So we took away and just changed it to a healing circle activity and did it twice a month. So we started like with you feed people, and that's us as Indian people. Our tribe, the funding that you get is not going to cover food. It's always clear, like, yeah, this doesn't pay for your meals, but the tribe pays for food. So it's coming out of yet another pot of money where Skokomish directly pays for the food, and we have a budget for that. We'll feed them. We offer childcare, and we contract with somebody in the village to do childcare, $50 for a couple hours. And then again, it came to, let's start with this, because every event we have raffle prizes, or this necklace here was one of probably 75 to 100 that we made. Everybody got a necklace for Teal Day, Go Teal Day. We go beyond the ribbon and we think, like, how do we respond culturally to this? Well, turquoise is a really good Go Teal thing, but this is a good way to get everybody going. So we started with something simple, something basic, and then we started getting more fancy with our classes. And this one was a registration where we could host up to 10, and it was a 2-night class. And again, we're giving them something that can subsidize their income. We want to make sure that everybody has that ability to pull into a skill, run with it if they want, and then subsidize their income if they want. We don't care we don't care, and that's the part of it. We don't care what happens to it once it leaves our building. That's not our business. If you're going to gift something, you have to let go of the ownership of it. So then we took it a step further. This is an area where, even my village, we used to have dogs that we kept on Wa'ata Island just for their hair and would make rugs out of them. So we're weavers out in this area. And so this was our wool weaving class. And this was the first time that we did the language integration. And everybody next to their loom had the words for the Tuareg language. They had the words for weaving, like weave, tump line, what do you call the warp? Like that's what they call it when you first string your loom, is called warping. So there are all these traditional words. They use the traditional language in this class. And that's when, you know, it kind of started dawning on me. I put it with this. I saw this. This is my language. This is Makah. And it just popped up, you know, on my calendar. We don't count time the way other people do. We count by tides. We count by what season it is, what gathering we're doing. My tribe is whalers. And so this is when this popped up, that all of it started kind of falling into place for me. It's time for whaling. And you put that with that weaving class that we had done. And I went, I get it. They say every time you speak your language, you sing your song, you dance that dance, that's when your ancestors are walking with you. They come and sit with you and they help you. And I thought, man, how strong would these survivors be knowing that? How strong would this community be knowing that? And that's when we really took off with it. And we really started working with our language department. We pulled them in on our, on our big scheme of things. So it's been faithfully, religiously working with our language department. What's the word for this? And this is what's interesting. And I challenge every one of you to find this out. Do you have a word in your language for domestic violence? Skokomish does not. That is not our practice. That is not our way. There was never a word for it. So the closest they got was good love. You know, rather than bad love, good love. Say good love. We still don't want that to be a part of our language. So we started using that in the language. So once you bring that in, it's gonna, even that, we're here, like our flyers that we made, our trifle brochure saying, these are all the services we offer. We're here. Dibaldish, we're here. You know, every time somebody's there, even if they're not needing our services, everybody in the community sees that and they know that's them, that's their language, that's who they are. You're giving them so much more when you're giving them back their language and using their language to communicate with them. And so this started going on everything. Dibaldish. And I had to learn to speak their language. Every time I would take it to my boss, she'd go, and how do you say it? And I would have to pronounce it for her and tell her exactly how it translated before she'd even approve it. So even she's strict about that. That's the teaching. But what does it mean? When I was a young girl, we weren't allowed, like we have tribal songs and dances. Everybody has a right to do that. But then we have family songs and dances. When those girls go out, they're all sidelined, they're all on the sides, and there's one main dancer in the middle. And the girl's job on the outside is to protect that dancer in the middle as he makes his transformation into a wolf, for example. But if you were dancing for that family had a right to ask you what those words are saying in their song. What does that dance mean? And if you couldn't tell them, they would tell you, you can sit down, thank you. So you have to know these things. And that's how my boss is. Like she wants you to know these things, and she wants you to understand the weight of what it is that you're doing. So it's a huge challenge, but I would love to see everybody do that. You know, like go find out, like, do you have a language department? Is there language integration in your program? And how would that be able to strengthen your community? But I think first and foremost, it's always nice to know, like, do you even have a word for sexual assault or domestic violence in your language? Ugh, ugh. I hope you don't. So then we came to the one of the gals that I was telling you about. She's a survivor, and she wanted to go pick cedar bark. She wanted to teach people how to go pull bark. That's what we weave with. There's a certain time of year that the bark comes off the trees without being pitchy, and it's typically early spring. And how do you justify, for me, what is going out and playing in the woods all day? So we're bringing back again, where are the lessons in this? How are you going to teach this? Who will teach it? And then how do you pull that into your actual program? So we went to her again, and we have to have a full idea. We have to have a plan, and we have to have what will everybody get from this? And being able to say, this is when we learn to say it, cultural and traditional healing. That justifies almost everything on your grant. So being able to say cultural and traditional healing, and then again, we're giving them a skill that can subsidize their income if they're already a weaver, or a lot of them are already weavers and don't have a way out to the woods. They don't have that transportation, and we're providing something again that's going to let them get what they need to subsidize their income. So we were able to present it in a nice, pretty bow, and cultural and traditional healing, and sack lunches, and had our teacher, who was an elders task force member. So again, we're pulling in one of our elders and being able to subsidize her income by paying her to teach, and then going out and everybody in the woods together for the day. And so we were off and running, and then we tell them, bring your bark, because we're going to do a basket weaving class. If you don't know how to use this, or if you just want to join in with us, because weaving together is always like way more fun than weaving by yourself. So here we are again. And so we start out with a simple class, which is like a headband. So, and that's my foot. I have monkey feet. But so like I've been weaving since I was 9, so I'm like doing my own thing. And here's our teacher teaching. She teaches so wonderfully, but everybody learned a headband, and then we moved on to baskets. And these are people that, in the program, the gal in the middle sitting down, that's our community outreach specialist. And she'll be first to admit she never had to do a thing growing up. She was spoiled. Everybody worked but her, because she was the baby. So she says, I don't know how to do much. I don't know these things. So she would jump into these classes and pick up these skills. And now, like, she can teach the next generation. She can teach her children. She can, and it's so cool. So she would jump in and she'd pull bark, we'd pull bark for the program. All these other people get to take their bark home, and we'd take bark and then donate it to the program. So her bark was also going to the program. And then it would keep, even after this, we could just throw on a weaving class, whenever the mood struck, if we couldn't come up with an idea. And so anytime, here's where I show off my grandchildren, anytime we do a class, and so Patty, the outreach specialist, was a good one. She was always a good one to practice on. I'd give her something, see how long it took her, and then bring my grandchildren in, hand them something, see if they could do it, what the challenges were for them. I did the medallions, they did the necklaces, and then we sewed them on together. So I test a lot of things on my grandchildren. I do it myself, and then I would throw one at my coworker. Here, try this. And then I would have one with like, hey, do you bead? Yeah. Here, try this. And so we do a lot of testing. We don't just like throw it out there and go. We really do stick to this probably about a 3 to 5 month planning period for things. We're looking way ahead, going, what's coming up, what's coming up, what's coming up. And making these plans of, I hope this works. And then if it doesn't, then, you know, there are some that I failed on that I went, well, that was a waste of the last month, you know, but still, it's still sitting there in a folder because I know one day I'm going to have the answer to that. So don't get discouraged. Just, if you have an idea, test it, like buy enough to do like 4 or 5. And then, you know, like I said, dole them out to different people, different age groups, different, what do you get, not talent, but different levels. Somebody pipe in and give me the word. But even like if it doesn't work and you do it, you've got to start, and then you can always go, well, you know what, next time we can try it this way. Next time maybe we'll add this. I handed out, like, since the coronavirus, I've handed out kits, and I just thought, you know, I wish I would have put our music from Skokomish in there, because it just, you know, it was still a nice little kit, but still, you always go, what can I do better next time? So once we get our beading down, like for Purple Thursday, instead, again, we're like, you don't always have to use a ribbon as long as those colors are there and prevalent. So Purple Thursday, we did a ribbon class in September. Actually, we started at the beginning of September to give everybody time to be ready for October. And every time we're handing out education, domestic violence, we were heavy on it this time. They're all getting their literature every time they come to a class. As long as we're handing out that literature, we're covered by our grant. We're educating them, we're talking. We have all that time for 2 nights we're doing this, sitting around talking, and the conversations that naturally happen and the things people might disclose. And this class was so awesome that I started going, you know what, I think we're onto something here. Like, people weren't really coming to a women's circle class where they had an opportunity to, you know, like just a plain necklace. You know, it was still a good offering, but when it had the meaning behind it, they seemed to respond a little better. And we had more completed projects on this than I was really expecting. It was incredible, just incredible. So then I did this. So then we have more outreach. And these are ways that you can care for somebody. And this is like, especially with the coronavirus, again, we're shifting. How do we address what's going on in our community? I had the cups done and we gave them out for Wear Red Day, but everybody that had completed our beading class, each got a kit delivered to their door. I just hung them on, ran around, hung them on doorknobs. And these are teas. And again, here's where our community garden and our healing garden come into play. There's swamp tea. There's, you know, we're giving them different kinds of teas. So I imagine, you know, like you always like to picture these ladies and the gentleman sitting down with a cup of tea, beading. And then again, I wish I would have sent the music, but this is one where I wish if I could do that again, I would send music so they could sit there and listen to their traditional music while they did it. And again, we had more people sending in. They were so proud, like they were so proud of their beadwork, and they were sending me pictures. And that's when I finally, this one right here, man, she said she did her first one and she said, could I get a bigger project? I want to keep going on this. And it just excited me because I thought, not because, gee, our program's so popular. It's nothing like that. It's they're texting and sending these pictures to our crisis line. I gave them my crisis line number. Text it to me. Save my number in your phone and text it to me. I'm going to give you my number now. Once they started doing that, I realized any one of these people that we've made connections with, will not hesitate to call or text that crisis line if something ever happens. That was the goal. That was Rosetta's overall when I very first started working for her. She wanted us at every event. She wants us at all the outreach. She wants us at health fairs. She wants us at the elders picnic. We always do outreach. We're always making things. We're always contributing. Everything has our information on it. And this is why she said they need to see you as people. You don't need to be that DV person. They need to see you as a human. They need to see the person in you. They need to trust you. They need to know who you are, not your job title, who you are. And when this picture came in, man, I was crying. I was sitting at my desk crying. I was like, man, she used my number. And that's what you want. You want to know that these people have bought into your program to the point that if God forbid anything ever happened to them, they're going to call you. They're going to get a hold of you. So here, I just love this picture. I love seeing different generations together. So we have an apothecary. We took our steps in, kind of combining, worked with a gal that helped us come up with a recipe for a calming spray. And this is good for people that are going into shelter because they're typically not allowed candles, things like that. So we made a spray, and it has lavender, lemongrass, pink grapefruit, and I don't remember the last thing, but we started growing our apothecary and we started playing with it. So this spray is like really popular. One of the little girls in the community has grown up on this stuff since she was 3. And she says it sends away the bad spirits. She doesn't even know what that, like, fully, I don't know that maybe she did know. They're seers, children are seers, but she'll say it sends away the bad people, the bad spirits, like it keeps the bad away. So she'll spray that around her room. But we could set up a parking lot pop-up, like during the spring. We have a canopy tent that we would put up at health fairs and the elders picnic, the national night out for the police department. And we'd always have an activity and handouts or gifts or whatever for the community, not gifts, but like outreach stuff. And it was like, well, use it for this. Like, the weather's too nice for everybody to be inside. Nobody wants to come to our craft class now because the summer's here. So we just went out to our parking lot and put this canopy up and did our craft outside, did sack lunches, and people were able to drop by off the streets. And this is like a prime time of year because I don't care what age they are then. I was like pulling kids off their bikes. You come eat, come get some water, and so we're able to reach like a whole other population without having to have a spot reserved. Simple 5 to 10 minute crafts. Everybody could come make, they were making, and this time of year we were making bug spray as well. We do an all natural bug spray. A lot of them are the same ingredients, only it includes the cedar, helps with ticks. So we would add cedar to it. But we started really, like rolling with the apothecary because it's a natural way of healing. And we started with so you start with this. What are we gathering? What gathering season is it? So for you, it can be very different, but for us here, this is what it looks like. Nettles are a big one in the Northwest. So the trick, and we're kind of, we have this tricky spot because we also teach in the non-Indian community. And then my supervisor is always like, be careful about, because some of the community members aren't Indian. Careful what you're teaching, because our teachings are pretty strict. And some of them, like with the nettle, back home in Nia Bay, nettles are used very differently for spiritual practices. But overall, nettles are a great source of iron. They're a lot like spinach. Nettle tea is very good. So we promote it in one sense and provide it on that level, knowing that people could be using it for other things. So whenever you're going to teach, if it's, if it has that purpose of a medicine, that's great, a natural tea. But if they're using it spiritually, you're going to offer it without teaching that piece, because anybody should already know that. Anybody that uses it for that piece will already know that. And then we expanded more with Earth Day. And I like this one because we used it in the sense of house plants that heal. We had different house plants that we chose: jasmine, a snake plant, English ivy. Don't remember the last one, but I really wanted to celebrate Earth Day. We're always looking like, how do we integrate our program into what's going on around us? So why shouldn't we celebrate Earth Day? And people will go, well, you're a DV program. So we're not going to be told no. So with Earth Day, well, why can't I do, so it's a lot of research. Just so you guys know, this is like research. It's Google. It's like research, because every time you find a plant, you're looking up that plant to see everything that plant can do. So with Earth Day, I said, well, house plants that heal. And that justified our spending. That justified it for us. So we were able to give out, like, we bought something like 45 plants. They each got to pick one. And then we gave the little seeds in the peat pots on the side. Even the seeds have meaning, like they're the purple coneflower, which is echinacea, which is a good medicine. And then we gave away the flowers that save the pollinators. But everything we give away, even on the back of every one of those seed packets, it says with compliments from the Skokomish DV program and has our phone number. So we're giving everybody our phone number and our contact information at every point of contact. We never give them anything without making sure that they have our information. So it's all like, even on the book, and I always imagine somebody, even if they pass the book off, it has all the plants in there and what they do. At every point, they're getting our information. If somebody comes into their house and picks that little book up to look at it, they're going to have our phone number. We're constantly making sure that everybody has, this is where it came from, this is what you can do. So then we started even more working more and more with medicines, with natural things. And so last year, I again experimented. And so the Nootka rose grows out in Skokomish territory and mine. It's all over Western Washington. Went out and picked rose and infused it in the honey, because this is a natural sore soother. It's good for colds, it's good for sore throats. The rose is used for washing spiritually. So we're giving them something again that can be used in another way. Just even if somebody goes, oh yeah, like that Nootka rose will do this too. We're giving them, and then that honey, you can also wash your face with it. It's a really good, like a spa cleanser type thing where you put the honey on and wash it off, but you're using your natural resources around you. And so we keep trying to lean towards that. We celebrate everything each time a year. And this was another one of those integrations of why just fathers in June? Why is it about Father's Day? Every man has purpose. Every man is sacred. Come back to a way of thinking that, and I hear it a lot, where you can kind of consider somebody, they're just an addict anyway. She's just, excuse my language, but I've heard people, she's just a whore, and it implies that people deserve what they get. And you have to look at them and say, there's something to somebody. There's somebody's son. There's somebody's grandpa. There's somebody's husband. There's somebody's something. they all have value. And the question is more, well, what happened to them along the way? You know, because these are methods of coping is what I'm seeing. If you look at somebody's arrest records, you know, which I've done a few times, and I've done that with somebody and said, you know, so it looks to me like a lot of your arrests are really just related to addiction. And saying that, and you're not calling them an addict, you're not seeing the addict, you're pointing out, you know, these look like they're related to addiction. Well, yeah, you know, I had to do something to forget. Well, what are you trying to forget that's that drastic for that long? And then they start disclosing their sexual assault. This is a victim. He's still a human, you know, so why not celebrate every man in the community, and especially those ones that need that reminder that every man is sacred. Our men are sacred to us. And this was a huge undertaking, but it's me again going, I really want to do this. And Rosetta goes, come up with a plan. Tell me how you're going to do this. And it was, again, putting the language in there. Teaching them in their language that the men are sacred. And I wanted every man in that village recognized. And so we put it in our newsletter. We invited everybody to honor the men in their lives. Send us a picture. Tell them, you know, tell us, what is it about that person? Send us a picture that shows who they are. And I told my boss, I said, I want to go one step further. These men need to see this, you know? And so we made a big 11 by 17 on cardstock and delivered it to all the men that these people wanted to honor. So we were like a delivery service for them. If you think of it like 1-800-Flowers. But it was the best time. Like, we had the best day, and we delivered every one of those and gave, along with their page, their poster, we also gave them a shell that had sage in it. And even if somebody wasn't honoring somebody else, if we didn't have anything, we actually were stopping people on the street. Hey, we'd hand them a sage and shell. But we went door to door delivering sage and shell to honor everybody. And the oldest elder in the community, we wrapped in a blanket on this day. We always do it the week before Father's Day. And then we went a step further and we took these and put these into a big slideshow, made a big video production of it. And if you look at these, I just love these pictures. This is like who these men are. I just love them. But it has the words in the language for grandfather, uncle, son, brother. You know, we want to remind these people who they are in their language. Then we put them all on a video, put the Skokomish music, the Tuaduk songs in the background as it played. It was, I think, a 25-minute video. We had so many pictures submitted and got pictures of all the shells and sage that we delivered that day. We got pictures of every one of them, all the deliveries, put them all together, ran them to the community center for the Father's Day dinner. And they played that on the big screen before dinner. So everybody got to see, you know. And so if you think of this, and this was like a huge undertaking, I'm not gonna lie, it was driving me crazy for a while, but think of the numbers that we had on our grant, because at the end of the day, it's still coming back to numbers. We still have to report numbers. It's a lot of fun. Yes, it's culturally relevant. Yes, this looks great on a grant report, but what about the numbers? So we had numbers for everybody that got the newsletter was outreach number 1 on this project. Number 2, everybody that responded with a picture was an outreach number. They bought into our program and participated in this activity. They got added to this list. Every man that we reached out to for delivery was another outreach number. Everybody else that we saw along the way and doors we knocked on was another number that we added to our grant report. And then everybody at that community center, we worked with the manager of the community center, the clinic staff were the ones that hosted the Father's Day dinner. We got the sign-in sheet from that, and every one of those was another outreach number. So it's like learning, like, one, you want it to be meaningful. You want it to be useful. And that's the one thing that Rosetta will keep saying over and over. We want this to be useful. We want this to be meaningful. The other thing we did, that video is still on file. That's an archive. That's an historical archive for the community now. And I hope it's going to be there for generations. There are people in there that aren't with us anymore. It's there. And we got to do that for that family. I'm sorry, but I know some of them that aren't with us anymore. That's hard work, but man, what it did for this community. And then never mind the numbers that we got out of it. Like, whew. Excuse me, I'm having a struggle. Here's one of my ideas that did not work. Here's one of my failings. So we want to celebrate International Day of the Girl. And this is a good teaching, because not everything is going to work the way you want it to because of your community's spiritual practices, where those start and your work stops. We kept having conversations of wanting to recognize the young women, the girls in the community. Oh, let's wrap them all in blankets. Oh, let's do then it turned into some kind of ceremony where it's a big circle where the older women in the village, the mothers, the aunties, the grandmas, can come in and give the girls teachings about becoming a woman and blah, blah. And it really started crossing a line, because I said, ceremony is not a place for what we're doing, because then we're teaching people how they should pray. You're telling them this is our practice, so it should be yours. And that's a personal choice, family to family often. What happened, in my tribe, it's different. When you get your moon, you get your tattoo. When you get married, you add to that. So how many people do you think are going to jive with that? Like as an International Day of the Girl, like, hey, let's go get tattooed. No. So this went a whole lot of nowhere. And what it ended up being, though, which is still good, we got this book. And this went to all the girls in the youth program. We found a way to do outreach to make sure. And this is a really great book. If you guys have not seen it, you should all get at least one copy and look at it and see if you want it for your programs. But it's Voices of Native American Women. And it was a really nice way to recognize all the girls and then the moms and the aunties and everybody else in the community. And again, our sticker with our phone number with compliments, blah, blah, phone number on the inside cover of every book that we give out. We have a really vast library and our number is on everything. So this went out to everybody, and we donated a copy to the clinic. So everybody that's waiting at the health clinic gets to look through it too and find our information in it. So even failures, it might not always look like how it starts out, but it usually turns out to be something. And so again, here's our other way, like this is our pop-up when we started. Oh, it was lavender. That was the other house plant that healed, was lavender. So that's my coworker again. And so our canopy, big phone number, we have one for domestic violence, one for sexual assault. And then we're able to take that canopy. This is in front of our building, but we carried it up to the community center. And we did it right during elders lunch. So on the way in or on the way out, we had elders making an all natural sunblock for summer months. So it's like wherever there's not an opportunity, we're going to make it. And then again, this is part of our language integration and listening to your community. And everybody wanted a ribbon skirt class. And my boss said, no, way too big of a project. We wanted to teach everybody how to use a sewing machine first, give them a smaller project that had all of the same techniques they would be using for a skirt. So again, registration, we used all the awareness colors for the bags, but this material we actually had made like way before. And it says love lives here in our language, how's our logo. And it was a 2-day class. And again, I'm always so proud when I see my coworker with her completed projects, because again, somebody who had never sewn, who finished this and gifted it to her daughter. We always gift our first, like our first of anything we do, we gift. So she gifted it to her daughter. And every one of these, the buy-in is anybody who finishes their bag, they're going to be the first ones in that prioritize. You get to do our ribbon skirt class when we do it first. So this was our last class before the pandemic hit. So, and I promised them, and I told Rosetta, like, they all do the ribbon skirt class first. So the other part, the digital storytelling that I was talking about earlier, there's an organization called IndigiDreams. They do storytelling workshops for, I believe, up to 6 people. We started out doing the storytelling workshop, and then we did an advanced class, and then we did a train the trainers, so that Patty and myself were both able to now fully do a one-on-one with anybody in the community. And the gal that you see there is doing a parenting video. And so it's gathering their story. What story is it that you want to tell? Helping, being able to pull that story out of them, edit it down to about a 4-minute video, and then add the pictures to it for them. And so they get to go back and go through and find their pictures. And we've had some really amazing stories come out of this community. A lot of them were of surviving sexual assault. One about losing his son. And it was an accident, 2 boys playing with a gun, and he lost his son. And this telling a story was a way for him to heal. He had come to peace with it. He'd found peace in his life before he passed himself. And again, that story went to his family, and his family continues to thank the program for, like, you helped him heal, and come to terms with it all before he left. And so, like, there are always different topics that we're doing. We helped healthy families do all their parenting videos. And then, a lot of them are, we did several on sexual assault. They're really heavy topics. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard days, but we have documentation again. We have that archive, and we have a skill that's really helping the community heal in so many ways. And then the really cool thing, like, again, we're coming back to nettles. It doesn't have to be anything in your program that's heavy all the time, or like, oh, it's so time consuming, we don't have the time. We have other jobs, like, seriously, legal advocacy, crisis and trauma response, you have all these things going on. This is how simple it is. My boss every day makes sure that she has tea going in the kitchen. So when somebody comes in, it's as simple as going, do you want some tea? Are you fed? We need to take care of people first. And then making sure, like, it's not always counted as a number. It's not always about that number. The numbers are important. It keeps your grant funding coming in. But how are you caring for them on a daily basis? Anybody that walks into our door, what are they offered? And so it's you'll find in the lobby a basket full of little tea bags that anybody can come and take if they need it. We always are making medicines. We've grown our apothecary so that I've been making dandelion oil, sweetgrass oil, devil's club oil. Any one of these can be used to make medicines. And so we have salves, healing lotions, ones for pain, sore muscles, bruises. And you justify this because I guarantee you, when you have a victim who's been severely beaten, they're going to need that. You always want to have that on hand for them. We keep that in supply for our clients that come in. Bath soaks for sore muscles, fast soaks to help the bruises go away. But then we always move a good portion. We make enough so that a portion goes over for the elders in the community. So we're able to take care of them on an ongoing basis, for their arthritis, for their pain. And so the last couple of years I've been deteriorating health-wise, and they've put me on so many medications, so many steroids, name it, they've done it to me, and nothing has helped the one area that is constantly broke. I have hives from lupus. And so it's funny because I finally gave up all their creams, their lotions, they moved me up to a steroid cream. Nothing was working. And then I made a Devil's Club solve and test run it, how will this work? And I got curious one day and started putting it on that one area, and that one, it healed it. Like after everything else, like I'm like, so practice what you preach, everybody. Like I was like, especially me, like you're making sure you're taking care of everybody in your community. And it was a good reminder to stop and take care of myself as well. Like, try this on you once in a while. And so with the pandemic, it's really changed the way that we've done outreach, the way we've had to get creative. So this goes on, this has gone on everything. I'm carrying good medicine or carry good medicine. We put this on they're really cute. They're little snap-on, the little chains that snap on a purse with antibacterial wipes. We put it on hand sanitizer bottles, anything to encourage that safety around everybody. And of course, there's always that challenge for people to be vaccinated, especially with the transient population. And people, especially, when you experience trauma, you have intergenerational trauma, you have older people that don't trust anybody, and people that say they're just going to inject cancer in me. We've had elders actually say that wouldn't trust it. So we try to form a bribery here, which works, but we had jackets made, and on the back of the jacket says just that, I'm carrying good medicine. And it has our logo. And so it was really encouraging everybody and helping them understand. It's like, well, how do you justify that? Because I told my boss, I said, we're coming up on that season. Our people here really need jackets for the weather that's going to come up. How are you going to justify that? I said, I'm going to figure it out. So even if you don't know the answer, but you know what you want to do, keep chewing on it, write it down. I have a running list of things that I want to do. It's like my wish list. And then we find a way to justify it. And so when she asked me, what are you going to use to justify that? Well, look at that top statement under Carry Good Medicine. And this came off the Washington State Coalition of Domestic Violence website. So the pandemic's brought more isolation, stress, and financial instability, leaving survivors with fewer options for safety. That bottom line, that's your justification right there for your spending. So being vaccinated, this was my part, being vaccinated is being a good ancestor. It says we care about our neighbors, relatives, and survivors of domestic violence. So knowing, helping people understand that it's not only about them, it's about a community much larger than themselves, and that it is another area of safety on a whole other level. So we were able to justify it, and we got jackets, and now everybody that brings a proof that they're fully vaccinated will get a jacket. So you're providing a community service, you're getting the logo out there, and you're like bringing like a whole other level of safety to the community, kind of sometimes without them knowing it. and then again, these went out, and we looked up the CDC website. What do you need for a safety kit, survival kit right now? And this was one of the things on the list, was the candles and the Forever Match, candles and matches. And in Skokomish, we have a practice where they use candles. They also don't like to use lighters for this practice. They don't like lighters, so we got a Forever Match. So we're giving these as an emergency supply, but it's helping the people with that spiritual practice as well, stay in supply for what they need. And then other times, like I just see it as, even if you're providing the space, we get berries, and these berries that you see are all gathered from the community garden, from the community area. The other great thing that my boss did was she put all the fruit bearing bushes and trees along Reservation Road, all the way throughout the community. She had them planted. She said nobody should have to come to us to get food. So she made sure they went out and people can gather themselves and not have feel like they're at somebody's mercy. She's such a high thinker. She's like my hero, one of my heroes. But so sometimes we just offer the space. We have jam making. We have all the supplies in the kitchen. People can come by and make jam, and when they do, we'll give them a couple jars. But all of these jams go to all the elders for elders picnic and for Thanksgiving baskets, Christmas baskets, things like that. So we're always jamming, jarring up fish. And we have a huge, fully functioning kitchen. So even if you're inviting people to come do that and offering the space at Christmas time, we're doing cookies for the community Christmas party every year. So it's like, come make cookies. And my boss always has all the main ingredients in the kitchen. There's like during Christmas time, there's always everything you need to make a basic cookie, and then a shelf full of all the alternatives of how to specialize your cookie. So it's offering space for people to come, and think of the confidence it gives them. Again, a coworker who never really baked before, she's like slaying it at cookies, and I got her making fry bread, buckskin bread. So a lot of times it's, even if you don't have a full activity, you're like, it's such a busy time of year right now for the community. We don't want to really like pull them aside and try to make them come to our thing. So we'll just put a generic out there like this and invite people to come help make jam. And people like, here's one that shows up every time and helps make jam, and she'll get a couple jars out of it, and the rest will go, to the elders at one or another. But the other key piece for us is in our logo. This logo was made by a sexual assault survivor. She designed it and donated it to the program. And the one thing that I always remember is people really get tired of looking at the same thing over and over, or they get so used to it that they tune it out. So I'm always changing colors. I'm making things vivid. I'm making them big. And then with the logo, when we got it, it was a blue ballpoint pen that it was made with. And I spent several weeks on this in an editing program, and my boss kept asking what I was doing with it, because that's all I was doing. And it's like, you got to trust me on this, trust me. So I took it from a blue ballpoint pen to this with the purple and teal. And then everything we celebrate, like that's the piece of the logo. This is for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm still using our logo, and I'm able to, I encourage everybody to really learn graphic design or have somebody do it for you. This one was for Orange for Love Day, Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. We actually had this put on those net gaiters, and all the youth got them for Orange for Love Day. And we're changing it to what's happening at the time. And this one goes on things that are saying, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, blah, blah, blah. So, it's count. And again, it's horrible. I hate doing the grant report, because you break everything down into numbers. It's data. And I'm like, people are not data, and you have to find that way to go, yeah, but that's how our funding keeps going. This covers that. Anytime you do something, even that logo on that background with the rainbow on it is covering your LGBTQ. It's addressing it. It's saying we're here for you too. And so we're always working with being able to keep being fluid in what we're doing, making sure it's growing, making sure that we're reaching out to the community in all these different ways, all these different methods, all these different populations. The building never stops. It's incredible to see, and be able to work for, somebody that is 100% about their community, always finding ways to kind of freshen it up and say, well, what can we do next? And it's, you get into that rut and that routine. And I know I brought it up before, and it was like, but we've done that already. Like, don't you think people are getting tired of it? So think, think of what you want and not what usually is always practiced. What the general practice is, if you think outside of that general practice and go, but what would I want to do for these people? Not what I want personally, but what would I want to do for these people? What would I want to see for this community? And then again, being able to have that supervisor makes all the difference, where you're able to bounce it off her, and you're able to, she's always the devil's advocate. But what about this? What about that? And finding that person that helps you not just go, I need to do better research, being accepting of yourself in that way of saying, like, I don't know everything. I'm never going to know everything, but I can find an answer for right now. So like, like I look at this and look at where this program came from. And then I look at things like this and I'm like, we're doing all right. These are our youth, doing these fabulous, these answers. We talked about love last year. So this is this gal talking about love. And then like, these are my test runs here, these paddle canoes, different style canoes. You have to live out here to know the difference. Like, I have my own canoe and I don't even know the difference half the time. But, being able to give them a piece of wood and a design idea and letting them take that away, that's going to help them go, oh, I can do this. And now I can do a bigger paddle that I can actually paddle a canoe with, and being able to give people the opportunity. It's just, finding that space. And even, like, even during a pandemic, here we are, and this is why I like these outreaches, when they're outside, and somebody can bring their child and we don't have to worry about the age as much then, because we're for 18 and over. But during pop-ups, if you move your location, you're great. And even this ribbon with the rose, that's a cedar bark rose. Cedar is very healing for us. And this was gifted to me by a sexual assault survivor. And it's like, we're not just a service, we are, like, just like my boss wanted, we're seen as people, we're seen as more than, and it's, it feels heavy a lot of the time, like I have a lot of sleepless times, but it's being able, again, like, you guys just really take care of yourselves. Know that what you're doing is for the overall good of a community, and you're giving people tools, you're giving opportunity to them, and you're, as long as you do that and you're honoring their way of life without teaching them how to practice their religion, like, pretty much anything outside of that goes. So this is, and these are like the ones that I really wanted you to see. The Indigi Dreams website. These women are amazing. They've taught me so much. And even as long as I've been out of my violence, having to do a video to explain our program services, they were like, yeah, that's nice. Skokomish does it. And that's why I breezed through it at the beginning. Skokomish does this and they do that. Well, what about you? Why do you do this work? And so they made me tell my story, and man, it was hard, but it helped me, and so if you don't know them, shoot them an email and say, what can you do for us? And man, these women are just amazing, and they're friends, and they become family in every community they visit. That's how good they are at what they do. And again, like for us, when we do those digital stories, we're not allowed to share other people's stories without their permission. We will never share someone's story. So, but what I did are sample videos. Those are mine that I did. So if you want to look at those, if anybody wants to talk, if anybody wants any of my, even if you want the like recipes for how do you make that calming spray, how do you make bug spray, I have like files full of, I actually made a whole recipe book this year that has all the local plants. It has how to gather, when to gather, how to process it, clean it, how to cook it. I gave recipes for all of them: salmon berries, nettles, Nootka rose, camas root, anything that's coming off a plant from our area. I mean, it turned out, and it's another one of those things. I want to celebrate Earth Day. But it was, you know, like these people should be outside. We're in a pandemic. How can we get them out in nature and let them be safe at the same time? And so it turned into its own beast. It's its own book now, but still, you know, it's so worth it. If one person gets something out of what you offer, you've done your job, you know. And that's like that piece of beaded artwork that got texted to me, like, oh, I did my job. So by all means, email me. If you want to have a conversation, email me and I'll call you. We're all here to help each other. We're all here to, you know, learn together, to, you know, I have a group in within those 5 in all of Washington, really, where we all keep in touch. And I'll call somebody if I have a client issue. I don't even know what to do, you know, and get those ideas bouncing back and forth. If you know, I share all my research I do. Anytime I make a flyer, anytime I come up with an event, like I send it out to everybody. Feel free to use it and just put your own logo in there. And I got a response back from one of the gals going, oh my gosh, thank you. I had no idea what I was supposed to do during a pandemic this year, you know, and she goes, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that. And so like anything at all like that, I'm always available. I'm always willing. You know, we're all here to help each other and work our way through together, you know, as a society. That's what, you know, we're built to do. You know, that's how I was raised. So anyway, I thank you all for your time. I don't think I stuck to any of my outline. Why?
This was wonderful, Tor. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Does anyone want to unmute themselves to ask a question or share anything? If you do, go for it. The unmute button is down at the bottom. The slides will go out in a follow-up email. If you have any questions, reach out. If you think of things later, reach out.
And I hope you all were doing crafts this whole time. I usually like to bring crafts with me whenever I go to something.
Mm-hmm.
And just it's more, you know, relaxing. It makes it less like a class or whatever. But yeah, I wish I could have done something.
So we did get a question, is there part 2? I personally would love to have Tor on everything. There is a relative-centered housing part 2 on June 22nd. Tor won't be there, so forgive me for that. But there will be a part 2 on June 22nd. Watch for our newsletters. It should come out, like the registration link will come out like next week for you to register for part 2. We also have other housing and homeless services webinars coming up through, you know, the summer and through the fall. And so watch for those to come out because we have a lot of things coming out soon. And yes, so all of our recordings for our webinars, they do go onto our Redwind website. I'm going to go ahead and type that into the chat. So if you want to check out any of our other archived webinars, the children and youth ones are up there, housing and homeless services are up there, the urban project is up there, the tribal campus is up there. So you can look through all of our archived webinars. We are starting to roll out a peer-to-peer networking forum. for transitional housing and emergency shelters. And I'm trying to grab that link real quick. It is on Slack. And so with this is an invite if you would like to join the Slack network. At Redwood, we've been playing around with it. We've had other TA providers jump on to play around with it, and now we're starting to roll that out. It just, pay attention to your special conditions, pay attention to your confidentiality. It's a forum. It's a social networking type of forum, but it is by invite only. So it will be tribal grantees, but still be very aware of your confidentiality while you're on there. Just kind of a note for that. Yeah, so if you have any questions or if you have any issues joining that Slack network, let me know. We can jump on a call and I can do a screen share like this and walk you through Slack. That's not a big deal. Because once you play around with it a little bit, it gets easier. But feel free to join that and post and share and ask people for their resources. That's what it's there for. I'm not seeing any other questions. Just like Tor, I really like your ideas. I'll email you on the bug spray recipes. This was wonderful. I'm glad it was recorded. Looking forward to sharing it with our staff. The ideas you shared will really help and enhance some of what we've been doing here. Thank you so much. I love the videos. It's always nice to see how similar/different other Native cultures are to each other. Thank you for the new ideas. So no questions that I'm seeing, but a lot of this was wonderful.
Good. I'm so happy you asked me here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here.
I could go on forever about this program. It's grown, man. It's just the way it's grown is something, and I just hope you all have a boss like Rosetta. Makes such a difference. I went through several supervisors, and it really came together when she became manager of this department. So yeah, it's just let your mind go, and justification can follow. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much, Tor. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you all at our next webinar. Take care.
Have a good day, everybody.